Hello everybody, welcome back to Automation. Today we're going to be continuing our little mini-series on Japanese engine recreations. Today, as I said last time, I want to work on the RB20 and the RB25. I'm going to stick just with those two and not the RB26 because that's when it goes to a twin turbo. And at this point we can't do twin turbo setups. So I'll save those for whenever that update comes along. If I have time, I also want to move on into the Toyota range and try the 4AGE. But to start out with, let's go for the RB20DET. So, new engine. These engines I don't personally have any experience with, so the details have taken a lot of research, and the internet is so flaky when it comes to stuff like this. You know, you get very conflicting numbers. So I'm just going to continue to do the best I can with the knowledge I do have. And that is that they are a cast iron block, inline 6 obviously. The bore is 78 millimeters even, and the stroke is 69.7. And that gives you, if we can get there, yep, that gives you basically a 1.998 liter engine, or 1998 cc. So for a 6-cylinder engine, it's actually really small. So let's see, again, I don't have a ton of information on the bottom end parts, and even less was available then for the KA and SR stuff. So I'm going to kind of just stick to the same stuff that was featured in those, because I figure odds are they're using the same kind of stuff. So what did I go with? I think I stuck with cast. So that's what we'll start out. We'll start out with cast ones, and I'm going to go with the hypereutectic cast on the pistons. I'm going to continue to say that word as fast as possible because I'm still convinced I'm not saying it correctly. I'm going to bump that quality all the way up because I know I'm going to run into that issue. Top end, they are dual overhead cam, 4 valves per cylinder with an aluminum head. I remembered this time. 8.5 to 1 compression. I'm going to leave the cam where it is for now. The RB20 is an older motor, started production in the late 80s. It was featured most notably in the R32 Skyline. It did not, let me bump this back actually. We'll go to 92 or 93. It did not feature VVT or VVL. Let's see. Oh, I think we'll go with that. That's a pretty early 90s looking design. I think they just had actually a silver valve cover, not chrome. It's every silver one to choose from. Yeah, that works. Let's see. It is turbocharged, and it is single turbocharged in this generation. Let's see what turbo it has there. It might be the one I built last. But they are limited at 7 psi, and from everything I read, they are seriously limited at 7 psi. They start exploding and doing all sorts of not nice stuff past that. Almost forgot the intercooler. We'll go with a medium. So I will leave that for now. I believe these are using a T3 turbo, but I'll mess with these when the time comes. They are fuel injected with multi-point. We'll go with the performance intake, and they are running on premium. Kind of a middle of the road fuel mixture, pretty aggressive timing. RPM limit, let me look that up actually. That looks to be about a 7,500 RPM rev limit, so I know we're going to have some bottom end issues. Oh well. We'll deal with it. Deal with it as we go. Once again, not much options here. We'll go with a 2.5-inch exhaust, 3-way catalytic converter. To straight through mufflers on this. I'm sure they had a pretty performance exhaust system on them. Or Skylines after all. Yeah, let's actually test it out. Let's make sure that that turbo is going to be working properly. Turn my volume up real quick because I can't hear it. There we go. Well, it came up to the correct amount of boost, and it's doing that pretty low. It's actually not coming apart at all. Smaller parts on this inline 6 are a big help there. Looking like we're pretty short on power though. So go and do the dyno test and see where we're at. We are looking for about 212 horsepower, about 194 foot-pounds torque. Okay, so we're only getting about 156 horsepower and about 160 foot-pounds of torque. But it's actually coming at about the correct RPM. 6,400 RPM is peak power stock, or that's what I read anyway. Let's see. We're way low on our octane, so we got plenty to go with our timing. What else can we do? Maybe a little bit more aggressive on the cam profile. Doesn't look like we're making any huge jumps there. Actually, not bad. 176. You know, for a 2-liter inline 6, that's pretty respectable. Only running 7 pounds of boost. Looks like the boost is coming on extremely late, though. Almost past 4,000. Let's see if maybe I can improve that a little bit. Alrighty, so I messed around with the turbo a little bit. It was actually a little bit on the large side, and it still may be. Now it's coming up to boost much quicker. Around 183 there. So I'm still about 20 short of what I'd like to be at. Alright, a little bit more aggressive cam, a little bit more fuel. It may start to run rich though. That's not too bad. 201 and 173, so we're pretty low on torque, which means I'm probably getting a little carried away with the cam. Bring that back down just a hair. And I don't know if I can get this to spool any quicker. I lost too much power doing that. Okay, so not too much is different now. Just change the quality on some of the things and tweaking on the cam profile, try and get them a little bit more even. 182 on torque, still a little short. But 211 horsepower, that's right where we need to be. Okay, let's see, torque's only about 10 short. You know what, although the power's coming on a hair late, so let me back down on this just a few clicks. I forgot to increase the quality here and here, so maybe that'll make up for it. have... Oh, sorry, I won't talk over the engine. There we go. Now that power's coming in a little bit earlier. Now, if this was a actual RB engine, they are known for the intake that goes over top of the valve cover. I bet you everybody that has worked on one of those engines wishes they had a setup like this, though. So visually, it's not perfect, but there we go. Pretty quickly and easily, it didn't put up too much of a fight. There is an RB20DET. Let me actually name that real quick. RB20DET. Save. There we go. Good deal. Alrighty, now to make our next engine, the RB25DET, I'm going to start with the same engine and modify it. It's actually a pretty new engine. They started a lot from scratch. There's a new block, so we got a 86mm bore. So a pretty big size increase here. If I could hit the right number. So 86mm, and then a 71.7. So it's still a over square engine, which helps out this bottom end situation a lot. Thank you, Nissan, for that. Okay, and any other changes? The top end, we're going to go to a 9.1 compression now. I do believe they're using a new larger turbocharger for this, for the RB25. But once again, I'm going to mess around with that because that's a pivotal part of tuning in those final horsepower numbers. So I'm going to leave that as it is for now. Now for this motor, we are looking for quote-unquote 276 horsepower and 213 foot-pounds of torque. I say quote-unquote because this engine falls in that weird era where there was a gentleman's agreement between all the Japanese car makers. We're not going to make any engines that make more than 276 horsepower. It's pretty much a lie. Everyone knew it was a lie. They fudged those numbers, and when they brought these engines over here, well, they never brought the RB over here, but like the 2JZ and those motors, when they ended up bringing them to the States, mysteriously they were putting out, 320 horsepower and stuff like that. So we're going to believe them for now, and we'll shoot for that 276. We'll see where it's at. Okay, so what I'm noticing is I'm actually making a lot more torque than necessary. I'm only supposed to be about 213 foot-pounds. Again, that number could be incorrect, although I don't think they necessarily limited torque. But it's definitely too close. So let me perhaps increase that cam profile. And get just a hair more timing. Okay, so now I'm making peak power at about the correct mark, a little bit late. Numbers I'm showing are about 5,600 RPM. That's not terrible. It's definitely got that fall off like it should. But the numbers I'm seeing are actually for what is called the RB25DET Neo. That is because they added variable valve timing, or variable cam timing as they called it, on the intake side. So we'll see if that gives us any bump in power. Not really. Not really. But what we do have here is now a turbo that's possibly not tuned for getting this much exhaust gas, so let me increase the size just a little bit. Oh yeah, now I think we're going to be making some power. Still 7 psi. Or 7.1, for whatever reason, won't let me pick 7 flat. There we go. We're definitely making the power too late. We're making more power than necessary though, so what I can do is bring down this cam profile. That may be a hair too much. This, though, to me, is a very iconic engine. This is in about that era. Looks like we're a little short. About the era where Gran Turismo 1 came out, I started having some pretty heavy influence on that, or by that, into getting interested in this Japanese car culture. And it was a really cool time where all this stuff was, it was all made of fantasy, because obviously we didn't get these kind of cars over here, and if we did, they were, $60,000-$70,000 for whatever reason, so they weren't really relatable, so everybody just kind of built them up as these iconic cars and engines, and they were incredible. And now, 10 years, 15 years later, I've learned exactly what they were, and they were actually very high-tech, ahead of their time. That was probably one of the few remaining big sports car battles left. I don't know how many more of those we're going to get. Obviously, we have a little bit of one right now with the GTR and the new NSX going on and stuff like that. But this was just a really cool era with a lot of innovation and cool designs. So let's see what that little bit of a cam change does for us. Still pretty late on the power. Alrighty, so as I said, the numbers that I have are probably not exactly right. So I'm gonna do is kind of settle on at this 6,000 RPM mark. I'd like to be making over 280 horsepower, because that's about what they were quoting, 276 at 5,600 or 5,700. So my thoughts are they probably were chopping off the top of this dyno chart and saying, oh, it wasn't making any power past that, so it only makes 276 horsepower. Odds are we're probably making a little bit north of that. So we'll do one final run on her. And that's that. That's rename it, and that's the RB25DET. So let's save that one. And that for now is all I'm going to be doing with the Nissan motors of that era anyway. There's still some more I'd like to explore. Obviously we will have to wait for V6s for, say, the VG30 and the VE30, and I'm pretty sure there's some other, the VQ, although that's kind of a more modern motor. But there are some V6s from that era that will need to be covered eventually. And then obviously the twin turbos for the RB26DET. Okay, so let's move on. Alrighty, next up we're going to move over to the Toyota engines, and we're going to start a little bit further back in about the mid-80s. They had a motor that really helped spark the drifting culture in the AE86, and it also was featured in a plethora of other Toyota sports cars, including the MR2. But that was the 4AGE. It was a 4-cylinder engine, naturally aspirated. It was a pretty small displacement, but it was just one of those perfect engines in the way that it was virtually indestructible, and it was very responsive to modification. And later on, it didn't really gain too much fame until, you know, that mid-90s era where drifting and the whole import culture really took off. But let's start off with the original 4AGE, which is a 16-valve 4-cylinder. Alrighty, so the 4AGE was also cast iron blocked. It had a 81 by... Okay, this slider's really starting to get on my nerves. Maybe I'm just too antsy with it. Okay, 81 by 77 stroke. And that gives you a 1587cc or 1.6 liter engine. They are cast iron, cast conrods, and they were debatably cast pistons. I did not get too much information on this. I was looking all over the internet trying to figure out what kind of pistons they were using. I'm going to start with cast, with the high quality for now, and we'll see how that works as we go. They are dual overhead cam with 4 valves per cylinder, 16 valve obviously, with aluminum heads. The compression is one of those kind of gray areas as well. Well, not really a gray area, but they started with a 9.4 and they went up to a 10.3 later on. So I'm going to start at 9.4 and see what kind of numbers we get with that. I'm going to start with a 45 on the cam profile. No VVT, no VVL. It's a pretty old motor. Did not have such things at that time. It's kind of a square looking, yeah, I guess like that, but without that wrinkle finish. There we go. Let me see what color they were actually. It looks like from factory they also came with that kind of just polished steel look like this, with the correct lettering there. Actually, I want to say maybe that's what their the automation guys' styling was, or their inspiration for this valve cover, because that looks strikingly similar. Okay, so aspiration, it is naturally aspirated. It is fuel injected with multi-point, for this motor anyway. I'm going to say performance intake, or standard. Yeah, we'll say performance. It ran on regular unleaded. Pretty aggressive timing, and their red line was at 7,600 RPM. Okay, now this is just a stock motor, and they were just using a short cast header for that. I would say 2¼ inch piping. It may actually be smaller than that. 3-way cat. We'll just do straight through mufflers. Alrighty, so there we have it. It looks pretty much identical. Hopefully it puts out about identical numbers to what I have, and that would be around between 115 and 120 horsepower, possibly depending on that compression, and about 109 foot-pounds of torque. So right there on the torque. A little short on the horsepower. but at 6,500 RPM, that's actually about the right RPM for my specs. At 6,600 RPM was its peak. So I'm just going to do one click on the cam, maybe two, and increase the quality on both the fuel system and the top end, because these were pretty advanced engines, although my gear's all wrong. Let's see if maybe just that little change will do it. Obviously these NA engines are a lot easier to get to within stock specific, or you know, the SAE values, because there's so many less variables. Well, seem to have lost quite a bit of power there somehow. Probably the year, I don't know. Let me actually test that right now. If I just bump this year up, what happens? Hey, yep. What do you know? There's a whole variable I never knew existed. Just the year changes what kind of numbers you get. Very interesting. Well, let's go back to that era. We'll say 95, I guess. And bump up cam, bump up our timing. How are we doing on fuel? I'm running pretty good on fuel. Engine is knocking. Oh, now we're not doing very good on fuel. Richen it up a little. Ooh, there we go. There we go. 119 horsepower at 6,500 RPM. 111 foot-pounds of torque. Let's actually take back a little bit of that time, or sorry, a little bit of that cam profile. But we'll increase the quality a little bit, and we'll let this one fully dyno test. Okie dokie, so there we have it, 120 horsepower, and that's with our lower compression, so not bad. For a 1.6 liter engine, they were pretty lightweight. Let's see, yeah, 243 pounds. You'd hardly know that was there. So they were just real good bulletproof engines, and they were put in there the correct way, at least in the 8086s, and obviously put in this way in an MR2, but still driving the correct wheels, if you ask me, and that's what made them so special. So there we go, there's another one done. These are going much easier than those pesky Nissans, or those KAs anyway. Let's see, this is the 4A GE. I'm going to put 16 valve. And I say that because I also want to do what is referred to as the silver top, which was a later engine that came with, of course, the biggest thing I have to do here is change it to a silver top. Watch it not have one. That's pretty chromy. Not chromy, but chromy. Yeah, not really. And we'll go with the chrome one. What the heck? That's really silver top. Okay, so the big advances on the silver top was that it was a 5 valve per cylinder motor, 20 valve engine, which is very cool. There's not many of those in existence. So we'll actually, let me leave that open. I don't show these views enough. There we go. And what else do we have here? They definitely went up to a 10.5 to 1 compression. And also one of the coolest things about these motors is that they had basically individual throttle bodies in a configuration pretty similar to this. Still using a fuel rail and injectors like you see here, but the end of the throttle bodies, they all had their own, sorry, the end of each runner had its own throttle body, and they were in an enclosed box. So once again, they may have used this motor to base their modeling off of. I don't know, but it's just a hunch. This motor also featured, it was obviously a much later motor, so we can actually bump this up to maybe a 98 or 99. Featured VVT, I believe it was only on the intake cam. But it also produced about 150 horsepower and about 119 foot-pounds of torque. I think we're going to be a little bit over that on torque. But let's see if we can make that 150. Nope, something's going to go horribly wrong. Ouch, 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 ouch. Kablamo. Failed due to knock. It's very possible that these engines ran on premium, if not at least super. I see we had correction there. They ran on premium, if not super. So I'm gonna go with premium because I was showing that it would work. So let's see. Well, yes, that will work, but looks like we're a little short on power. So our torque's right, but the power is low. What can we do there? More aggressive on the cam profile. More quality all around. And I think what I'm going to do is actually go to super and increase the timing. Now I think we're somewhere in that range. .143, still a little short. Still a little short. And we actually don't need that fuel octane, surprisingly. Of course, this might bite me here. We'll see. So close. Only 4 horsepower off. Maybe I can fudge that with something in here. Exhaust pipe that's too big. Whoa! Freak that thing out. So we go down to a 2. This might do it. You get to a point where the exhaust is too big, it doesn't have enough back pressure, and it's actually restricting the horsepower you can make. Don't tell any racer that, he will not believe you. 149, alright, I can live with 149. Torque's a little bit high. That power's coming on at right about the right RPM. They're saying that it's making it at 7,400 RPM, which is right at the end of that power band, which is due in part, I'm sure, to the variable valve timing. But very cool that it is now 4 engines done in 1 episode. It's going much smoother. So we'll call this one the 20 valve silver top. And save. So let's go back to our list. We now have 8 engines to choose from in our little inventory of Japanese motors. Still many to go. Very open to requests if you want me to do any of them. I have had quite a few requests, and I figured I would for the 2JZ, but as I said earlier, I'm kind of staying away from doing those motors at the moment because they are twin turbo. Certainly later on, when twin turbos are available, I will do those. But if you have any NA or single turbos you'd like to see, let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, my name is CodeNudger, and I'll see you next time.